What's going on, everybody? Teddy Baldassarre from teddybaldassarre.com. In this video, we're going to be looking at a watch available for purchase on my website with the Marathon Search and Rescue Anthracite. So at any point throughout this video, you want to learn more, I'll have a link in the description. But also, if you have additional questions outside of this video, you can also book a call with me to get questions answered about this watch, as well as any other watches available on my website as well. So guys, let's take a closer look at this watch. First, looking at a rundown of the specs here, we have a case size of 41 millimeters, thickness of 13.6 millimeters, lug width of 20 millimeters, lug to lug of 48 millimeters, water resistance of 300 meters, movement is an automatic at a 28-24-2, crystal is sapphire, screw down crown here as well. We have an IP coating on this case, which will also assist in scratch resistance, an ISO certification of 6425, and a price of $1,200. So before we get into the details of this piece, a little background on Marathon. So Marathon Watch Company has roots back to the early 1900s. It began really dipping its toes into the world of military-issued timepieces in 1941, producing watches and timing instruments for the Allied forces. In the decades following, this brand's ethos has really just been continued as they developed watches for military use, being used by US soldiers and Canadian Armed Forces. The company today operates out of Canada, with all their watches being produced in Switzerland, and really pride themselves on creating watches that can be more than suitable on both military personnel as well as enthusiasts that are just looking for a rugged watch that can take a beating. The watch that we're going to be looking at today is an extension of the family of popular sellers from the brand with the Search and Rescue series, with this one coming in a beautiful IP-coated case. That said, if you've not seen my other reviews covering other search and rescue models, I can link to them down below. That includes the 36mm medium search and rescue as well as the 41mm government search and rescue. Now with this version, it's going to be basically the same as that 41mm, except we're getting a new different style case. This one also has the option of the use of government markings on the dial as well as without it. First, when looking at the search and rescue on the wrist, we have a medium of the road sizing at 41mm and a reasonable lug to lug of 48mm that wears closer to, I would say, a 39 to 40mm watch as a result. The search and rescue certainly does have some wrist presence as a result of the weight of 180 grams, the relatively somewhat thick case of 13.5mm, not that thick considering the water resistance here, and more notably the crown and crown guards that extend out an additional 3.5mm from the side of the case. The crown comes with a nice knurling style that makes it really easy to engage and screw and unscrew, and looks great with this black finish of the case. The bezel comes in with a unidirectional 120 click that has very smooth action and has a nice audible sound to it. The bezel features a very easy to engage notch edge that extends out just slightly beyond the case underneath to assist with getting a grip. At the 12 on the bezel, we have a triangular tip that contains Mariglow, which is essentially Marathon's take on their own luminescent material that is going to shine brightly. Transitioning back to the wearing experience, the lugs tuck quite nicely to the wrist and feature lug holes to assist in a variety of straps to be paired with this watch. The strap that comes with this piece is a beautifully smooth vulcanized rubber strap that is really seriously comfortable on the wrist. But I think it's important that we need to discuss this IP coating that these watches have. Now, this type of finish on a case can be very hit or miss, but the quality of the finish here is quite exceptional, and the results of the surface actually manages for this to be 3 times harder than that of stainless steel. So this one's going to resist scratches quite well given its matte finish, and it's not going to really absorb oils or smudges as easy as it would if it had, say, a more glossy finish. Casting over the dial, we have the inclusion of a sapphire crystal, which will help this watch sustain its durable nature and provides view of the dial elements underneath. As I try to mention in all my videos, with watches featuring tritium, it's a material that is going to be quite different from that of superluminova, for example, as unlike superluminova that responds to a light source to emit luminescence that will shine brighter than tritium, it will gradually fade quite quickly in comparison. On the contrary, tritium might not shine as bright as superluminova, but it does emit a constant light source and will not fade quickly like that of superluminova, making it a very good choice for those that are operating in complete darkness. That said, if you're familiar with vintage watches, you know that tritium will eventually fade, and Marathon states that these will last up to 25 years. The dial features 2 shades of illuminating, with all the hands and markers containing the typical green tint, while the 12 o'clock marker contains an eye-catching orange to insist on orientation of the watch. The dial does not stop there with its tool aesthetics though. Along the outside of the dial, we do have a detail line minute track containing quarter of a second markers for precise timing, large white hour markers for both the 12 and 24 hour scale, a date window nestled between the 4 and the 5, and writing of Swiss made at the bottom of the dial, where Marathon has been producing their watches since 1939. And we also have the option for the inclusion of the US government marking at the 12 o'clock and without, and the use of the radiation symbol at the 3 o'clock that ensures that this watch is in compliance with the US Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Flipping the watch over, we have view of a closed caseback with quite a bit of military-style markings, such as the ISO number certification, the NATO stock number, the amount of radiation present in the watch, and the issued product code for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and the cage number. Within the screw-down caseback, we have the reliable ETA 28242. So this Swiss automatic movement doesn't really need to be explained much further, but just given its popularity, know that you're getting a workhorse of a movement here that will also be easy to service years down the road when it comes time. And it's also pretty easy to regulate if you ever wanted to do it yourself. That said, the regulation standards that Marathon upholds with their watches is typically very, very high in comparison to watches of this price. So you should really expect some great performance out of these, given just the parameters that they have to fit within to be government issued watches. This movement operates at 4 Hertz, 28,800 vibrations per hour, is hacking and hand winding, so meaning that you can stop the second hand when pulling out the crown to the farthest position, and you can hand wind the movement as well as it being an automatic. And the power reserve here is 38 hours. Now, I have progressed in my journey of collecting watches quite a bit, and I've really come to appreciate the world of tool watches, given that watches nowadays are generally not seen as tools as they once were. However, in certain practices, there are watches that sustain tool watch identity and can still serve their original purpose. And when looking at Marathon overall, and I think a product like this, which I think adds some sleekness and some difference compared to other watches in their range, I think this is certainly a model and a brand to look at more closely. As I really can't overstate, just these watches are absolutely built like tanks. They will last forever. They're made to take a beating, and they will take a beating. And in addition, with this model, I think you're also getting a cool style element with the black IP coated case. This is definitely a winner and probably one of my favorite watches that Marathon makes. So guys, thank you again for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon if you did enjoy it. Also, if you're interested in purchasing this watch, link in the description down below to do so. And if you do have more questions, you can actually book a call with me and I can help out with this watch, as well as any other watch you're looking for on my website. So guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.